Hello, I'm with the Society for Tarot and Astrology Readers, and I wanted to just tell you a quick story. I just wanted to tell you a quick story tonight. I want to talk about the archetype of the fool, the archetype of the fool. I wanted to talk about the archetype of the fool tonight. So everybody has their own stories about the fool, and I have mine, and I wanted to tell you about the one time that I met up with that archetype, and we had some times. So the fool is the zeroth card in tarot. It's before the first card. It's at once nothing and at the same time the start of everything is what they say about the fool. That's what they say. So as many fool journeys begin, mine did too. Mine started with a little piece of paper. It was a little piece of paper. Me and one of my friends, one of my good friends, we got these pieces of paper, and we were told that these pieces of paper, if we put them on our tongues and we let them dissolve and we just left them there for a while, that something magical and strange would happen to us, if we put these pieces of paper on our tongues. And we got 20 pieces of paper because we wanted enough for the whole summer, and we were so young and we were naive, and we got 20 pieces of paper and we put one on our tongues. And me and my friend, we waited for what felt like an hour and a half. It was a long time. We waited a long time. And we were not fully in the archetype of the fool at this point. No, it took a little bit longer. You see, because we felt like it wasn't working. And I was like, is it working? And he was like, is it working? And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, I don't know either. And he was like, well, why don't we just do more? And I was like, yeah, that couldn't be a bad idea. But it was a bad idea. And we did more. We did so much more. We both took five more little squares of paper when we were told that one square would be plenty. But no, we were brave in those days. We were brave, and we decided to go out on an unexpected journey and find what we could find. And we definitely found something that night. We found something that night. And the next morning, too, because as soon as the 5 extra were dissolving on our tongue, I was like, I think I'm starting to feel it. And he was like, I think I'm starting to feel it. And our pupils became the size of saucer plates, and suddenly we were seeing with new eyes. And he started telling me, he was like, hey, are you noticing what's happening with the walls? And I looked at the walls, and I looked at the swirling patterns in the walls, and I was like, I am noticing what's happening in the walls. And he said, what are you seeing on the walls? And I said, well, it seems like they're swirling. And he said, that's weird. I'm seeing people on the walls. And I was like, I don't see people yet. But it was still early in the night. I figured I had plenty of time to hang out with my friend and see if I saw swirling on the walls. But that was not to be that night. Because the phone rang. And this was back in the day before cell phones, when everybody was immediately able to be reached. But the phone rang, and it was my dad. And it was a Sunday, but it was the summer, and I didn't think about work the next day. I figured I'd take it off. And I was working with my dad, and my dad said, no, you can't take it off. I need you. You can't take it off. Well, oh shit. Oh shit, Dad. I'm going to have to keep it together. And it was hard to keep it together because the lights were dancing all around me, and I had no idea where they were trying to lead me, and my brain was going 1,000 miles a minute. But anyways, I realized that I didn't get to stay the night at my friend's house. I didn't get to go through this journey in a state of comfort. No, I had to go home because I had to sleep, to work for 12 hours the next day. And suffice to say, those of you that have gone down this road before know that you can't sleep. You can't sleep once you buy a ticket that big. No, so I went home and I stayed awake all night trying to force my mind to go to sleep, but it would just go into corners and annexes of my brain and bring up thoughts that I hadn't thought for 10 years. It would replay patterns of my mind back to me again and again and again. This was a new experience. I had never felt anything like this before. And I was struggling to make my mind calm down, to put my mind to sleep. But it was not to be, and my mind stayed awake, and my mind stayed awake. And the night went on, and the night went on, and then the sun began to lighten the horizon. And it was only minutes later that I would be sent out into the world. And I was sent out into the world. I had to go and get supplies for the work that I was doing. I had to drive 30 miles. 30 miles out into this world that I was not prepared for. Every face that I passed had some new depth to it. Every car. It was like I could see the design and all the energy that went into creating it. And the trees around me swayed to particular rhythms. And everything had a story to tell, but I couldn't focus on the story that it had to tell because I had to focus on getting to my destination and getting what I needed. And I did it. I stayed going. I trucked right through. I came back to the work site that I was supposed to be working at. And at that work site, I was told, you have a job to do. And my job was to dig a hole. And I was digging a hole at the house of the former chief of police. And I was digging a hole with 6 of these little squares still in me. And the former chief of police was there behind me. And I was digging this hole, and my mind kept telling me every moment, when you dig the hole, he's going to shoot you in the back of the head, and that's going to be the end of you. And I knew it wasn't true in some part of my mind, but that did not stop the loop from repeating. I knew that I couldn't run away. There was nowhere to go. This was the work. So I dug the hole. And even though I was certain that as soon as I was done with that hole, there'd be a shot in the back of my head and I'd slump to the ground with blood trailing out from my brain and from my body, even though I was sure it would happen, it didn't. The Fool leads you in weird directions. The Fool takes you places that you've never gone before. Sometimes when we resist that journey or resist those directions, it can feel like death. It can feel like total destruction. You have to go with the flow for the Fool's journey to work out. I hope that short narrative about the Fool was helpful to you, because it certainly was not helpful to me. And for my word of wisdom for the people in the future that are watching this, if you ever take 1 square, wait 2 hours before you take 5 more.